Backside, highest elevations, you're going above 10,000 feet in Colorado, but we've got winter weather advisories for Pikes Peak area. It's about 11,000 feet where you see about 3 to 8 inches of snow. Look at this in Kansas City. Next few days, rain off and on. It's going to be heavy at times, especially on Saturday night through Sunday morning. Finally, you begin to pepper it out just a bit, get some drier air in there. But here you go through Monday, another shot begins to move in. So that's a lot of rain edging right through KC over the next few days. So you guys are going to be in the bullseye. You're talking about a lot of rain. That's about 2 to 3 inches worth. We see the yellow. About 3 to 5 inches of rain, a possibility across northern parts of, looks like Missouri and the lower parts of Illinois. However, you've got heat out there right now. Your temperatures around Wichita, again, getting up into the upper 90s. Cooler air is on the way with fall, first day on Sunday. We are watching the potential of more severe weather and also more tropical stuff. We got Nick Koster coming in next. He's going to explain it all as well. We'll be right back.
You may be eligible for a plan with additional benefits and savings. If you are new to Medicare, moving, or losing benefits, it takes just one free call to see if you may be eligible to enroll. Call the Benefits Network now for a plan that gives you additional benefits. Our partners offer plans from multiple carriers, so it's easier for you to compare your options, coverage, and pricing.
I'm on Medicare and recently moved, so I called to make sure to find a plan in my new community.
You don't get a Medicare Advantage plan with additional benefits automatically, so make the free call to the number on your screen and a licensed insurance agent will walk you through the entire process. It's that easy. For a free, no-obligation consultation,
call 800-827-8596. That's 800-827-8596.
Everybody, thanks for joining me today. I'm Bob Van Dillen, back in Studio N. It's Friday, September 20th. Let's take you inside America's Weather Center. And joining me now, Nick Koster, meteorologist. Great to see you, buddy.
This is Studio N.
This is N. You didn't realize it? Yeah.
After me, Nick.
It is. That's what they named it after you.
Right,
Who's that guy coming in? He's a tall glass of water. Handsome devil. Who is that guy? Yeah, absolutely. So
that's why I like being on the show.
Yeah. Well, we were talking to you yesterday. You're out there at the pickleball championship.
Oh, it was a beautiful day.
That was fun.
Perfect weather, low humidity.
Yeah.
Got a chance to show off my cool shades.
Those blades were something else.
You know what? I think your birthday's coming up. I bought those from a gas station.
Did you?
They were about $10.
So-
I'd get you a pair.
So I'm guessing probably not polarized.
They were whatever the opposite of polar. Those glasses made things brighter for me.
So yeah, those are the ones that are dangerous for you because it makes your pupils open up, but it also shoots in the rays because it's not filtering them out. So let's get to the forecast right now. We've got a tropical threat that's out there. We were just talking about this before, Nick. 40% chance we see some formation, but it hasn't edged much up there in the last couple of days.
I know. You know what's interesting with this is it seems like the Gulf of Mexico is on and popping right now, or at least over the last couple of weeks. And this is a tough one. I know that we've got that orange thing painted over the Gulf of Mexico and part of the Caribbean, and it looks all official. But
Not much out there now, though.
I know, and we're waiting on the CAG, right, the Central American Gyre, to actually form. And so until that thing forms, we don't really have a great idea of where a potential something could go. Now, keep in mind, it's a very extremely educated guess that we have. But
I'll
it's
say.
still a guess, right?
It is, and it's all model contingent. I mean, the CAG hasn't even formed yet. We're thinking that'll happen this weekend, and when it does, it gets a nice circulation going. But right now, you've got some thunderstorms, but that's typical this time of year.
Yeah.
That's the ITCZ, where you got those Hadley cells are hitting each other, and you get the thunderstorms.
You would think, you know, if you just showed me that and said, hey, what's going on here, and you didn't give me maybe a whole lot going on
I
behind
didn't show
the scenes,
you the GFS or anything?
yeah, I'd be like, okay, it looks pretty normal.
So what is that gyre? Here's what it is. It's a sprawling area of low pressure near or over Central America. At this point, it looks like it's going to form over Central America and into the Western Caribbean, at least over the weekend.
Yeah, this is very common, late spring, early fall. You know, it's funny. We were talking about this at the beginning of the season, and I was running the other day, just doing some jogging in my mind. You know how your thoughts just kind of wander.
Bounce around like a CAG?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
I go, I think the CAG is about to set up, and you know, lo and behold, here we go.
Listen, you're a forecaster. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, or I have ADHD.
One of the two.
Probably both. But yeah, we've also got that upper trough that's digging to the south, and so hopefully, you know, that blocks everything or anything from coming into the Gulf Coast. That would be great. I have a sneaking suspicion it might not last.
That's the thing. It is going to start to lift,
Yeah.
but that'll be after the CAG actually forms. So once it lifts, it opens up the door for it to edge up to the lower part of the Gulf, and we don't want to see that happen.
No.
I mean, you don't want to see anybody really get clobbered with a lot of rain, but looks like you're going to get a lot, especially right around the Bay of Campeche into Yucatan and Central America too.
Yeah, and as we all know, everybody in the Gulf of Mexico just desperately needs more rain. Right? Kidding. That's
Yeah,
pure
really.
sarcasm. Yeah, so this will be interesting. This graphic it looks like a pepperoni pizza.
I was going to say a rotary phone, or it looks like my face when I was 15. I mean, I was thinking all those things, right? I mean, it's not a pretty picture is what we're saying at this point. You got the acne dots all around. But here's what we do know is going to happen. Even if a low pressure center does not form at the surface, a tight one, you're still going to open up the doors of tropical humidity at the very least coming into areas by Florida.
Yeah, no doubt. So that's not going to be very comfortable. And you had a pretty good analogy earlier when I was watching. You said it's like throwing rocks into a bike or spokes,
Yeah, you get a
right?
spoke you got a wheel that you're spinning real quickly. You drop a rock in the middle of it. Where does it shoot out? You don't know. And that's
know.
what a CAG is.
Yeah.
And the rock would be the center of circulation. 40% chance right there. I thought you meant the dirty one that I said, by the way.
What was that? I'm more interested in that
If the
now.
hurricane is the baby and the CAG are the parents that make the baby,
Yeah,
the parents haven't even met yet.
they haven't met yet.
Right? So I mean,
They're still on Tinder.
Yeah, they're still swiping right or left. Anyway, here's our little check mark. What we do need to have a storm form. Now we've got the hostile winds. I mean, that's what we've got going on. It's the only thing that's going to stop it, though, at this point.
I know. You know what's really interesting about this season is La Nina hasn't kicked in quite yet. We were thinking that was going to really be the X factor. We've got, you know, the wind shear, we've got the high sea surface temperatures, and everything else kind of in place for this huge blockbuster season.
But
the La Nina has really been the X factor, and I don't even think if it formed and started yesterday that it would have a big impact,
right? It's too late. I mean, the momentum's not there for it to happen.
Yeah.
And you're right. It's been dragging its feet, which is good. And that was one of the major reasons why they had a blockbuster forecast for named storms.
Yeah.
And plus the warm water temperatures, we've got that. But yeah, La Nina meant little shear out there. But we had a heck of a lot of Saharan dust for the longest period of time.
I know.
And that kept things at bay for the most part.
I think La Nina's so far. Anything could happen in the next 4 weeks,
Yeah.
6 weeks. But I do think the lack of La Nina probably the biggest limiting factor for the Atlantic hurricane season so far. But that dust also is
big.
almost a
coughing.
really close number 2,
I
which is
agree.
great. We want that, right?
do.
We didn't want a blockbuster season,
No,
so thank goodness.
we were pleasantly surprised. So with this in mind, what do we have to worry about over the next few days? Everybody in Florida has to keep an eye on this. We painted the entire
whole state, yeah.
right? From Key West all the way up to Jacksonville Beach out to Pensacola. So watch out for that. But here's what we're watching with the 2 storms. And I mean, it's ugly. The left is the GFS. That's the red. It's a little more aggressive GFS. That's the American model we always talk about. A little more aggressive, a little stronger, a little farther up to the north. European keeps it at bay, down to the south a little bit farther, and holds on to it, which means it would be later in the period.
I do want to say the GFS typically does go gangbusters.
They go ballistic.
More quickly,
That's such a good point.
and when a storm is further out. But I have been burned by the Euro a couple times this year. It's not quite as reliable for me as it has been in years
Personally,
past. So
yeah. No, I'm with you. And it's tough. And we're looking at the deterministic too, where those were the ensemble dots all around the region. So listen, you're right. It has to form first.
Yeah.
So if you're here on Monday with me, we'll talk about this.
We'll see if the parents have met.
We'll see if the parents have met and if they've actually formed something. Let me show you this. So we do have some stuff out there that we are watching, and there are 2 disturbances right here. They're Invest 96L because there's nothing else out there. You might as well name something.
Yeah, why not? So keep these hurricane hunters busy. I do love the fact that we finally got our first full fish storm. Gordon,
right. Every other thing has made a landfall.
Well, I was thinking when I'm looking at it, I go, wasn't Ernesto a fish storm? But it actually hit Bermuda somehow, some way. It hit the needle in the haystack. So
really did.
Gordon, it took all the way up to our G-name storm to keep it completely out at sea.
That was a bullseye, that Ernesto. And then, they don't get hit very often, but when they do, that was a pretty good one. So here we are. This is the remnants of Commissioner Gordon. All right. Look at the thunderstorms blow up and then boom, they get pushed away. That's only a 20% chance, Nick.
That's pretty huge shear. And basically you can see the wind coming from west to east and taking those cloud tops. If they're stacked like this in a perfect environment, the wind comes and just completely blows those cloud tops back off into the distance. And these tropical systems, they don't like that. So that's why there's only a 20% chance there. And then here's Invest 96L, winds of 30 miles per hour.
It's interesting they gave the 96L. I mean, you're looking at it right there. It's just... it's
nothing.
It's not a great looking animal at this point. Obviously, great news. We don't want the H storm to happen, but we are behind the times when it comes to naming storms this year.
I was just going to say, I know, what is it? Helene would be the H name storm.
Right, and I've got that for you right here. We should have hit the H name storm on September 9th. Today's the 20th.
Yeah.
So we're 11 days behind that.
So we should be on the J name storm by now. We're not even close.
J is coming up on Sunday on the average when you go all the way back. So, I mean, it's pretty amazing. The blockbuster year not happening. Nobody's complaining about it, but the first day of fall is September 22nd. It's Sunday this year.
I was just going to ask that. So is that this Sunday?
Yeah, it's coming up.
Wow. Okay, so we can actually drink pumpkin spice and not be embarrassingly early. Okay, good.
Not be made fun of.
Yeah,
Jane's been drinking it since June. I mean, that's her thing.
She's a different beast. She's been drinking it year round.
She is. Look at the name of the storms going on right here, Nick. We've got a third of the list. I don't think any of these that we've seen so far are going to get retired. Alberto all the way down through Gordon. The I name storm is the most retired named storm.
Right. That's typically the one that happens during the time of the year when conditions are most favorable. But I think this year we may be inching past that, if not already a little bit past that.
I think so.
I'll tell you what, if you would have told me that in the middle of September, late September, that we'd only be through the first column of the 2024 Atlantic name storm.
I would have taken the over on that 100 times.
I would have bet the whole farm,
Yeah, no question. We still have a lot of action left in the season, so you can see where we are with the big bold yellow line. 41% of the activity still remaining. Everything is backloaded for the season, and we're coming off the peak, but there still are a couple more rounds that go down, so we're not done.
Yeah, I do want to encourage everybody, speaking of fall and how it starts this weekend, it's so easy, especially if you live in the north or even, the mid-Atlantic, to think it's fall now, we don't have to worry about the tropics, we don't have to worry about hurricanes, tropical storms. Not the case. I've been there before as a meteorologist, where you kind of get into fall weather mode or the secondary severe season mode, and the tropics will spin back up and put you in a tough spot. So keep that emergency kit together. Don't start picking at it and, you know, drinking the water and using
That's a good point.
Yeah, I've done that before.
It's a very good point. You don't want to get caught with your pants down. I mean, in any situation in life ever.
That's right.
All right, let me show you this. I'm sure you saw this too, Nick. This is video that is coming in. It's a collapsed home right into the ocean due to beach erosion. And we saw this before. This is in Rodanthe, North Carolina. We've had collapses going on for the last couple of years now. That one floated away. Remember that?
I do.
It cost
a little bit of a backstory here.
Yeah, let's hear
it. But it still went into the ocean, and that's never good.
No, it was tough. I mean, and it costs a pretty penny if you want to pick up your house and move it. Let's bring in Fox Weather's Brandy Campbell to discuss the latest. Brandy, the last time I saw you, I could barely see you because we were in PTC 8 together. You did a terrific job out there, by the way. My dad said, that Brandy was in the middle of it. I was like, yeah, she did a great job. You did do a great job. And your composure when the rain was coming down at 5 inches per hour and the winds were screaming at you to over 60 miles per hour. Good job, Brandy. But you're still out there now. We're still talking about the North Carolina coast.
Yeah, Bob, that was definitely a crazy moment. So make sure to tell your dad I said thank you.
Yes.
And obviously an ongoing situation there. But now we're seeing homes along the East Coast also suffering damage, beach erosion and such. So the home that recently collapsed happened early this morning in Rodanthe. So the Cape Hatteras National Seashore, they're now urging people to stay out of the water to avoid the beach at this time, basically because of the hazards that are now in the water because of that collapse. Thankfully, the home that collapsed early this morning was unoccupied. So, of course, we're not hearing of any injuries or anyone that was impacted from being inside of the home. But this has been an ongoing situation. It's the 8th home to collapse in that area since 2020, and those previous 7 homes also unoccupied when they collapsed. So that's the good news out of all of this, if anything. But let's take a look at the video of the area that was taken earlier this week from WRAL before that house collapsed, and the photos following it just shows you what it looks like this morning. So you can see just the pieces of the home that were left behind scattered along the beach. WRAL spoke with Sharon Troy earlier this week before the collapse. She told them community members came to help them clear pieces of their deck that ripped off earlier in the week, also saying it's incredibly sad and that the home wasn't like this a few years ago. When they bought their home 16 years ago, there was a football field of beach behind their home. Now, several homes are in the ocean. Take a listen.
So we're trying to be proactive, take care of our homes. It's kind of hard. Insurance companies don't do anything until your house falls into the ocean.
There's no question that sea level rise is most likely making the problem worse and will make it worse in the future.
And unfortunately, it's a growing issue. It's the 3rd house to collapse just this year. We have video of the last one to occur that was just over a month ago. But right now, the National Park Service, they're just telling people, for one, they're keeping an eye on the home next door or adjacent to the one that collapsed because that one also sustained damage in that collapse. And they're also saying parts of the beach closed due to hazards, and that's in form of the septic systems, wires, pipes, and also broken concrete parking pads. And that's the same thing we saw just over a month ago when I went down to Rodanthe to report on that damage after the 7th home collapsed in that area. So a lot of beach erosion taking place there, unfortunately impacting those residents, and something that they're keeping an eye on there. Back to you, Bob.
Yeah, Brandy, the one thing I did notice too when I was out there at Wrightsville Beach after PTC 8 went by, this is on Tuesday morning, there were 2x4s that were washing up across that beach too. Obviously not from Rodanthe, but I mean, you just don't know what's out there in the water at this point. Brandy, great
really
job.
Don't.
We will talk to you
you
again.
got to be careful.
Yeah, we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you very much.
All
Great
right.
job. All right, severe thunderstorms hammered the Midwest over the last few days, and we had multiple reports of tornadoes in Minnesota. Got the potential for more severe weather later on today across the Midwest, and then that pesky northeast low is still hanging out. We got coastal flood warnings for the Long Island Sound. We'll talk all about that coming up in just a bit. We'll be right back.
Attention Medicare beneficiaries. If you're new to Medicare, recently moved, or losing coverage, you may qualify for enrollment in a Medicare Advantage plan, so make sure you know your Medicare ABCs. You may be familiar your Medicare ABCs. You may be familiar with Medicare Parts A and B, but if you are thinking about Part C, also called a Medicare Advantage plan, speak with a licensed insurance agent to see what plans and benefits are available in your area. Our partners offer coverage and pricing across multiple carriers. If you're new to Medicare, recently moved, or losing coverage, make the free call to the number on your screen. Give them your zip code, and a licensed insurance agent will walk you through the entire process. It's that easy.
2172.
Today's weather warning update is sponsored by Realtor.com. Get the Realtor.com app to see the environmental risks on every home.
All right, welcome back to Fox Weather, everybody. Let's dive into today's weather warning update, sponsored by Realtor.com, and you can see on the map right there, we've got a whole bunch of stuff shotgun across the country. Now, for the Northeast, we've got the coastal flood advisories. We had that astronomical high tide was on Tuesday where we peaked out with a super moon. But that is now waning, and we're watching for the winds to continue to pile up the wall of water off the Atlantic. That stubborn area of low pressure still out there. So, yeah, we got coastal flood advisories mainly for the high tides from Jersey into Long Island all the way down through the mid-Atlantic coastline. So we've got that. We also have heat advisories today right across Oklahoma. Daytime high is going to get up into the upper 90s to low 100s. Could feel like about 105 to 108 at times this afternoon. So the heat is out there with the humidity on the increase also. We do have an area of low pressure moving up out of the northern part of California into the northern four corners. That means we're going to see some breezy conditions and drier air entrained within that as the winds blow down the mountain. Got a high fire danger area, the areas that are shaded in red, and wind advisory spots north of that region. So we've got that also. And of course, we're going to see some winter weather coming in later on this weekend across the highest elevations in Colorado. You're talking about Pikes Peak area could see as much as 3 to 8 inches of snowfall starting later on this weekend and ending out by Monday with that colder air coming in. So there are your warning boards, and that's what we're watching for the day. All right, let's bring in Fox hurricane specialist Brian Norcross to discuss the possibility of the tropical threat that could form with the gyre. And Brian, I've been wanting to talk to you about this storm because it's so hard to base a forecast, as you know, on just something a computer model is thinking. But it seems like they've all been thinking the same thing about that gyre, maybe ejecting some energy into the Gulf by late in the period.
Yeah, they've been thinking in broad strokes the same thing. You're right, Bob, that something will develop down there. How weak it is, how strong it is, when it develops, where it develops is all kind of speculation. But, you know, this Central American gyre, a gyre just being a big rotating thing. Think like a big tire is kind of a gyre. And this is a big rotating low pressure system. You know, every year we have to deal with these early in the season and late in the season, and it's always like this. The thing is that this time it's a slower process of the gyre developing before we get to the tropical system, where in the past, seems like to me, the gyre's already been developed and then we start talking about it. But anyway, it's the way it goes these days. The computer models do extend out a good way. So first of all, before we get to that, I want you to look at the upper level winds. Remember, this is the area we're talking about down in here. And look at the upper level winds. There's this big dip in the jet stream here over Florida, which has caused just tremendous rain down here. Well, it's also, it actually goes down into Central America, and you see that there? So what it's doing is it's blowing strong upper level winds over top of this part of the world, and that's not going to allow anything to develop as long as that's in place. So this huge jet stream dip has got to move out of the way, and it's going to take through the weekend, really, for that to happen. So this is the area that we're focused on. Hurricane Center has drawn this potential development zone, includes the Gulf of Mexico here, includes over here. But notice that also it could be that this starts to develop over land, and in terms of a future forecast, makes a huge amount of difference where it forms. If it's over here, it's over some of the most energetic water in the entire world in terms of the sea surface injecting energy into the weather system. So you would think that you would tend to get a stronger system sooner over there. Over in here, you also have very warm water, but the upper level winds might not be as conducive. And of course, if it's over land somewhere, then it's just going to be very slow to organize until it actually moves some way over water. So that's why they have it at 40%, because we have all these possibilities. If we knew it was going to be over here, the numbers would be higher. And this is within the next 7 days. If it takes longer to develop, that's outside the 7-day window, so that wouldn't count in the 40%. So here's where we are right now, and a couple things I want you to notice. One is, notice these winds. This is that dip in the jet stream pulling the systems apart, the thunderstorms apart, down in that part of the world. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, the question is, do we see any rotation down in here? And the answer to that is no, because what we see is the clouds kind of moving that way here, and down here, everything is pushing that way. So there's no rotation there yet. The place the rotation is actually is kind of down, way down here by Costa Rica. So it's not in this Central American centered place that includes Mexico and the Caribbean and the Gulf, which is what we're really interested in. And here we can have the model analyze the winds, and there you see the winds blowing here and blowing over here, but not circulating over in this area that we're going to watch. So step number one is having that big circulation form. So let's take a look at the computer forecast. So this is exactly what I was just showing you. Winds, let me see, go back here. Winds going like this and winds going like this. Okay, so now let's go forward in time, and here we go now to Monday. So on Monday, notice now we have winds that are starting to make a circulation here. It's not like a circle, because what we have is we have lobes here in this flow, even over in here, that any of those could develop into some sort of an independent system, and that's why it's really impossible at this point to pin down. But indeed, all of the computer forecasts show some sort of broad low pressure system developing here by early next week. Now let's go to Wednesday, and here we see now we have a more unified looking low. The GFS actually spins up one of these lobes. You can see the winds over here are going really fast. That's an indication that this is actually going to try and develop into a tropical depression or a tropical storm. But when we look at all the other models, they're kind of all over the place. The European model actually develops it over land underneath of the gyre. Well, underneath of the gyre, there's no steering. So up in here with the GFS, look, you have steering that's going to push it north. Down here, there's not much of anything, so it kind of drifts around. And on the European, it kind of ends up in here eventually. Now, the Canadian model puts it here. The AI model, which is run by the European Center, which actually has done pretty well this year with Beryl and with Francine, that puts it more like the GFS and actually has steering on it to take it north. Now, just because the AI model worked on the last storm doesn't mean it works on the next one. Models don't work that way. I mean, you know, you love them today, you hate them tomorrow. That's the rule. So the point of this is that because this whole thing has a bunch of lobes on it and a lot of different factors, we have to let it develop and then have a better idea. So it's really not going to be until I think early next week that we really kind of know. And then we have, okay, here we are, still Wednesday. Then we have the steering issue. So here's the GFS steering, big dip in the jet stream. So the idea would be, if the GFS develops here and it gets strong enough that this scoop can pick it up, well, what's it going to do? It's going to come up and it's going to curve somehow, and here or something. It's probably going to be in the right side of the Gulf, Louisiana, over to Florida, something like that, if that were to happen and the steering pattern is right. High pressure is way back over here and is not really a factor in that scenario. But in the European scenario, the high pressure is dominating down here, and so that means we end up, if the system ends up down here, then it really can't move north. It's kind of blocked for a while. It takes time. It takes another dip in the jet stream to come along, and so forth. Now, you could have the GFS and the AI could be right, but this could be the steering. If that were the case, then this would come up and more likely turn here. So the point is, this is a thing where everybody just needs to, first of all, have a little patience, because nothing is going to develop quickly. We're talking about the end of next week. And when everybody from Texas to Florida needs to just watch this, be informed, and let's see how it develops. Because if it does something like this and gets caught in that first big scoop coming along, then it's going to move pretty quickly late next week. If it does something over here, then it's going to take time and it'll be into next weekend, like more than a week from now, and then we'll just have to see. So anyway, that's where we stand with all this right now. The point is that nothing is going to happen fast, so we'll really start the first part of the week to see how things seem like they're developing. Out there in the Atlantic, we have two little systems spinning around. National Hurricane Center just has 20% on both of them. This one is an invest. This one is former Gordon, but in any case, 20% and no threat to land from either of those. So the interesting thing is down there in the Gulf and the Caribbean, Bob, for sure. But there are so many pieces and parts and whatnot that have to line up or get a little more in line before we have some idea what's going to happen. It's just going to take a while. So certainly no issues to even think about this weekend.
Yeah, I guess that's the good news right there. I can let my hurricane chasing pants continue to dry out for at least the next 48 to 72 hours.
Exactly.
Then we go from there on Wednesday. Exactly. We'll see. Brian Norcross, our hurricane specialist for Fox Weather. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you again soon.
All right. Thanks, Bob.
Now, severe weather hit the Midwest yesterday. 2 tornadoes reported in northern Minnesota. You can see the video of one of them right there, Lake Elora. That's in Minnesota. That's northern part of the state. Pretty good shot right here, right? Didn't see any reports of injuries out of that, so that's some great news. Then our neighboring state in North Dakota, they got a nice funnel cloud. Look at this. It's more of a horizontal one. You didn't get that mechanism that pushes it and makes it go vertical, but you can see that little elephant trunk kind of dipping down from the clouds as it moves vertical. So it's pretty good. That's an indication of the good shear, but no major updraft to turn that thing and tilt it. So no tornado reports in North Dakota. Good picture, though. All right, what do we have today? Let me show you a deal, because we've got some areas of low pressure spinning around. One is across the northern part of California, ejecting into the Rockies over the weekend. And we've got the other one that's now moving through the northern sections of the Great Lakes. I'm going to zoom on this one first because it is jacking down a weak cold front up algae, but it's enough to get the thunderstorms going right over the lower part of Lake Michigan at this point, outside of Chicago, north of, looks like, South Bend, in the lower parts of Michigan. But that will pretty much heat up later today and develop a little more vertically with the thunderstorm action, so we could get some tougher wind gusts out of that by late this afternoon. More storms dropping down out of Kansas into northern Oklahoma. It's trying to stretch into middle parts of Missouri, but ahead of that, man, it is smoking hot. We've got heat advisories for Oklahoma. It's only for one day, though. Look what happens over the next few days, Saturday into Sunday, into Monday early. You're talking about big swath of rain stretching out from the Rocky Mountains into the Plain States. And notice the blue shading coming in, highest elevations of Colorado. You got winter weather advisories calling for as much as 3 to 8 inches of snow right around spots like Pikes Peak. But look at Kansas City. Once you're in it overnight tonight through tomorrow, boom, Kansas City, rain, dry, rain, dry. But looks like the timing on this, a little tougher to tell you because it's more zonal in nature, but the rain is going to continue to spill on in right through Kansas City all the way through early Monday. That's Monday morning's commute, and if that holds together with this forecast, that's a heck of a lot of rain in a short period of time, so something we're watching. How much rain are we looking at over the next few days? Starting out there Saturday through Tuesday, some orange peppered in there. That's about 3 to 5 inches of rain. Central Missouri into the lower parts of Illinois, getting into Indiana, about 2 to 3 inches of rain there. The other storm we've been following, bringing in the coastal flood advisories during the high tide cycles. That is that area of low pressure just offshore from New Jersey. It's been drifting out there about 300 miles offshore for the last 2 days. Hasn't moved too much. It's going to take some energy from the Midwest later this week and to finally boot it out. But here's the visible satellite imagery, and you can see the circulation going on right here. Not a lot of steering flow, so we just have the winds coming in off the ocean right across the coast of Maine, all the way through Boston. Zoom into that area by eastern Massachusetts, and that's a good sheet of rain. You're talking just outside of Boston, who needs the rain, going all the way down to Providence, Rhode Island, and you have just pockets of rain. It's been steady now across Martha's Vineyard, down through Nantucket. That's the way it's looked over the last 3 hours, and that rain's going to continue. Coastal flooding, it's saltwater flooding. It's not because of the rain, it's because of the water being pushed up by the wind. That's going to be out there for the next few high tide cycles, essentially going through Sunday afternoon. So that's something we'll be following for sure. All right, we've been looking at this for the last few times now. What about our tropics? We've got that coming up. Plus, Robert Ray has a special on Hawaii, on Kilauea, uncovering storms out there in Hawaii. It's tough. We'll talk to him about it as well. It's all coming up right after the break.
What will you do when the power goes out? Power outages can be unpredictable and inconvenient, but with a Generac home standby generator, your life goes on uninterrupted because you'll have power.
Extended power outages. Don't make it so hard on yourself. Have a Generac home standby generator.
And special financing and low monthly payment options are available. Call or go online now to request your free quote. Power your life with Generac.
That's $78.29.
Oh, I've only got $50. Take out the cheese puffs and the broccoli. I mean, who likes broccoli?
I don't. Only $22.87 to go.
Keep the cheese puffs, but leave out the broccoli.
Get Empower Cash Advance up to $300 instantly. Download the Empower app today.
I'm Brian Norcross with a Hurricane HQ Minute on the question, are coastal areas in the U.S. better protected now, or are they in worse shape than when the great hurricanes of the past came ashore? The answer to the question is mixed. Here on Miami Beach, the beach is much larger than it was decades ago, and there's an extensive dune system which will slow down the surge except in the most extreme storm. But many places along the coast don't have coastal defenses. A lot of money has been spent making the city of Miami Beach more resilient, and more expensive projects are planned. These dunes aren't just piles of sand. They're made stronger by what's under the sand and what's growing on top. Indigenous plants were chosen to make the dunes as storm resistant as possible. On the other side of the island, the streets are being raised to account for sea level rise and to help hold back storm surge. Streets that used to flood in heavy rain now drain with no problem. But in historic Charleston, South Carolina, and along the mid-Atlantic coast, where the sea level is rising and the land is sinking, the streets flood in minor storms. This flooding was from Hurricane Nicole in 2022, but this scene is being repeated more often now in recent years. National Hurricane Center projections show the daunting problem. Look at the red covering many parts of the city of Charleston and the surrounding area on this map. Those areas could see storm surge over 9 feet deep, and that's from a Category 3. Here on Miami Beach, a powerful storm could push storm surge over these dunes and into the city, and that's a problem. But the daunting challenge comes from the millions of people that have moved near the water all along the U.S. coast. It's hard to imagine how they'll all get to safety when a big hurricane is coming. Hurricane HQ has you covered. Stay informed this hurricane season. Download the Fox Weather app right now.
Welcome back to America's Weather Center, everybody. I'm Bob Van Dillon. Joining me now is Jane Menard. And the last time I heard your voice, Jane, we were both in Hurricane Francine.
Yes.
I was in New Orleans and you were in Gulfport?
Gulfport, Mississippi.
You were in the outer bands.
I was in the outer bands, which you can expect wind and rain. What I didn't expect was all the lightning.
Plenty of it, right?
A lot of instability out there.
We had that on the, especially on that outside where you were, with those bands coming in. So yeah, it strengthened up to 100-mile-an-hour winds.
It was impressive.
If you live around the Gulf Coast, you know things can really blow up quickly, and that's what happened with that one. Francine, 100-mile-per-hour winds when we expected to get to maybe 90, and 100 right before it came in. But this is the area of concern now, and we've been following this for the last several days. 40% chance, Jane. I know you've been following it. What's your take on this thing?
You know, I hate to be, I'm the conservative one. I'm like, you know, I'm a little more reserved. We have been caught in the past with 40% chance and nothing comes of it.
True.
And then ultimately, you got to wait until the environment gets just to the right conditions to finally see something come together. I do think that it bears watching, right? And models definitely do not have a handle on this at all. No. The American GFS, you know, takes it one way, the European takes it another way, but this is a classic setup, especially through end of September, October, so you can't sleep on it.
And this is how Beryl formed too, earlier on in the season. Right?
Yes.
No, wait, Beryl was the tropical wave. It was the A storm.
Alberto.
Yeah, Alberto. Yeah, that was the one that got ejected out there and went up and went into Mexico. Yeah.
But there was another one that we were watching that kind of set up.
Well, Francine wasn't really a giant. It was the combination of two coming in. There was one from the Caribbean, one from the Gulf of Mexico. But the gyre, and this is classic for this time of year, right? You usually find these begin to develop across that part of the world late in the season for summer and then early fall. So this is what we've got. Hadn't formed yet. we're anticipating this for later on this weekend.
The warm waters are there. You know, I think you have to just be, where does this ultimately track, right? We could get a low pressure system, but does it kind of stay within the confines of the gyre and then just gets thrown back into Mexico?
That's what we're thinking.
You know, potentially.
They spin a wheel, put a rock in there, and wherever it shoots off is where it's going to go.
Exactly.
And that's what we're
from
thinking.
there, that's when you just got to be prepared for anything.
Here's what we do know, at least for the first part of the next 10 days. We've got that big dip in the jet stream. It's going to keep everything capped down to the south.
Yes.
Right? We don't have to worry about it for the next few days. In fact, that 40% chance is after 48 hours.
Yeah, getting into next week. So thankfully, as we open up this weekend, we can, you know, kind of breathe that sigh of relief, enjoy, you know, the last... or really the last weekend of summer.
Yeah, it is. Summer's Sunday.
Really today, fall begins for us.
Yeah, Sunday morning. And here's where the gyre is going to form. It's that big, ugly donut we put right there with the low pressure right in the center. We've got all the moisture coming in off the Pacific, feeds into it, and you start to get a nice little spin. And it's somewhere in that region as that jet stream lifts up to the north. Gyre may shift up to the north also.
Right, the timing is what's so tricky, right? You know, when do we see that dip kind of lift further from because that's what's going to tug it into the Gulf of Mexico.
It's going to scoop it up. So the GFS has it moving away quicker. European kind of hangs it down for a little bit longer period of time, allowing whatever does form to stick down south a little
more so into the Bay of Campeche. And then, I mean, no matter how you slice it, though, you have incredible warm waters in the Gulf of Mexico. In the Western Caribbean, you have some of the deepest ocean heat content that we have across the world. Exactly.
Right now.
So it's favorable for sure, and we've seen some big storms in the past when you look back at history over the last several years that have formed this time of the year in the gyre. So you just got to be prepared for it. I think the biggest takeaway for me is that somewhere on the Gulf of Mexico, we're going to get an influx of moisture, and that rain is going to come.
So the tropical humidity does come back.
Yes.
And you talk about Tampa, you know how unbearable it can be, especially when it's late in the season. You're like, enough is enough, right? And they already had a couple of whiffs of fall come in with some drier air. Here comes the humidity back, so we'll see what happens. But here's your 40% chance. Here's what we do know with the gyre. You do have a lot of shear that's out there initially. So here's your check mark. And this is what you would need yes columns for a storm to form.
Right. And so, you know, we have the stronger upper level winds. You know what's interesting in the area to watch, how it's kind of split 50-50 between the Bay of Campeche and the Western Caribbean, because I think that's the uncertainty of, well, where does this low pressure system ultimately lift up? You know, if it ends up in the Bay of Campeche, there's some drier air.
There is.
More so across the central portions of the Gulf of Mexico than there would be a little further to the south.
Seems like there's always a fight between the real warm waters and the dry air.
Yeah.
And the shear, of course, which is going to lift out. But here's what we do know, and we show you this map because if you live anywhere in green, so that's the entire population of Florida, just keep an eye on the weekend forecast, especially going into Monday and Tuesday of next week. That's when we have to really start.
I think next week is when we could either be dealing with a system that is slow to develop and we have a couple days to prepare, or it's a short window, and by the time we get to, say, Tuesday, you need to have those preparations in place.
Yeah, so we've got plenty of time. We really do, and it's all model dependent. It hasn't even formed yet. So it's
and that's the tricky part, because you hate
putting a forecast on a model that's saying something's going to happen when there's nothing even there yet.
Right.
Yeah, it's annoying. But here's what we do know also, the Atlantic. We're getting into the first part of October. We usually start seeing all the conditions begin to drop down just a little bit, but we do have a couple of spots. Let me switch around this hit to the rest of the Atlantic because there are a couple of spots that we're watching. One of them essentially is down, was Old Gordon. Remember Gordon?
Gordon, the remnants of this thing.
Gordon, was that ever a tropical storm?
I believe
it was. I mean, it was never turned into a hurricane, I should say.
It didn't, but you know, it was really kind of our first fish storm because Ernesto, we could say, was a fish storm, except for the fact that it made a rare landfall in Bermuda.
Everything else hit land.
Exactly.
I know it did. It nailed. There's a speck right there in the ocean, which is Bermuda, and it hit it.
Well, Gordon, our one and only named storm of the season that did not make a landfall.
And now we got Invest 96L going on.
Yeah, you know, it looked a little robust, and I understand why they put the Invest on it. But at the end of the day, this thing is going to lift up to the north, and it is not going to be much of a concern if it gets its act together.
Yeah, and it's a 20% chance.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, this is just one of those particular storms where you're checking off. Yep, we got there. Here's our quota. You know.
You think that's what they? I was saying that last year too. It's like, remember the K storm lasted for I think 12 hours.
Yeah.
Like, dude. Okay, we got it. No problem. But Invest 96L, and I say, why'd they do that? Because why not? There's nothing else out there.
I mean, there's nothing else. We need something to talk about.
We got to pay the guys from the National Hurricane Centers. Do something. Yeah. And I'm glad that they are not as busy as they could be. Don't get me wrong. I'm just kidding around.
We're really not, you know, we're slightly behind schedule with some of these names, but
You know, the I name formed, on September 16th on average. The J name storm, we haven't even gotten there yet. It would be September 22nd, a Sunday.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're behind schedule when it comes to naming storms, which is great. We're only a third of the way through.
I mean, I think you and I would agree that we're probably not going to fill out this entire list.
Not unless we get a storm, 2 storms a day in October. That's not going to happen.
No,
we don't think.
No, but October can be backloaded, and so you don't want to sleep on the fact that, as we get into the fall season, we could still be talking a lot of tropical activity. So
41% left of the tropical activity.
Yeah, I'm not done yet. I think we're probably going to get another maybe 2-3 storms on the board. Names?
Well, they'd have to be homegrown at this point because the tropical waves still and the water's cooling down in the main formation zone.
I don't know though. The ITCZ, I mean, that
I did see
a
a
little
couple
further
models.
to the south, couple models bringing us something out there in the main development region. I mean, way too far out in the realm of possibility for us to even think what that could look like.
Here's our Fox model, Jane, and I just pop it up because it's going to take you through Monday morning, and you can see maybe a little circulation with both these guys.
Right.
And they're not even close enough to even bring out the word Fujiwara. I mean, I'm trying to make
Give us something to talk about.
Give me something for crying out loud.
Yeah, Gordon is an X at this point. Hopefully it doesn't come back. We don't need any more X's in our lives, but.
That's a good way to put it.
But we'll see Invest 96L. Maybe we'll get something going into the next couple of days, but this is probably just going to shift up and well east of Bermuda too, so no impact.
Yeah,
there.
it's good. I think you're absolutely right. Jane, it's been a pleasure. You're working with Ian at 3 o'clock, right?
I'll be back with you about an hour.
Nice.
So.
That's what I love about Jane. Jane, you want to come in for another block? She's like, yeah.
Bring me in.
We'll talk about sports, talk about football. Who does Rutgers have, by the way?
Oh, I don't know, but I'm
look.
still reeling from our loss in the Eagles. I'm really upset about that.
I was not upset about that.
I know you weren't, but I couldn't sleep last night.
Really? You like them that much?
No, I wished that they couldn't sleep after that loss.
That's a good point. It's like, how about tackling? Anyway, let me show you this. We've got more weather coming up, especially across the Midwest. We had some rough weather yesterday, Jane. I know you saw this stuff. Multiple tornado reports in Minnesota. That was up there in the northern part of the state. Who's going to get smacked around later this afternoon for your Friday commute? And also that northeast with the wind off the ocean, forget about it. We'll talk all about that coming up. You're watching Fox Weather. We'll be right back.
And your mind. Well, thank you.
Mike Huckabee is so confident that Relaxium will work for you, he's asked us to give away 1,000 bottles.
If you're not getting calm enough to go to sleep, take Relaxium.
guaranteed to work or your money back. Visit TryRelaxium.com or call 800-317-6312. That's TryRelaxium.com or call 800-317-6312.
Stop sweat, just odor. Try Carpe instead. Dermatologist tested products for sweat and odor. Each one is designed for a specific area of the body because who wants to use the same product on our faces as our intimate spaces? No one. Exactly. Carpe is gentle on skin and they have a sweat quiz to get you started. Carpe's customized sweat care, that works. Don't just take my word for it. Take mine.
Your total body sweat solution is available at mycarpe.com. Visit today and get free shipping.
Hey, welcome back to America's Weather Center, everybody. I'm Bob Van Dillon here now again with Nick Koser, and Fox Weather is honored to partner with Tunnel to Towers organization, helping veterans, first responders, and their families. Our very own Nick Koser, you're going to be running the 5K run later on this month.
I'm so excited. I did it last year, and I'm doing it again. I had to do it again this year. So on September 29th, myself and many others will be running to support those who make huge sacrifices to serve their communities and in some cases save lives, right? There are a lot of programs within Tunnel to Towers that people can get involved in, including a student-athlete program. So this is cool. I spoke with Emma Cameron, a sophomore soccer goalie at Hofstra University, about her journey with Tunnel to Towers. Take a look. What does it feel like to be a T2T student-athlete?
I am so honored to become a T2T athlete. I will be involved with T2T the rest of my life, and I know I will. It just is so inspirational to be able to be a person who can kind of share and teach younger generations that these people are real life superheroes. They sacrifice their lives every day. So as a T2T athlete, part of our student athlete program, there's 10 of us. So we post on social media during our season and out of season promoting our mission statement of never forgetting the sacrifices. Personally, I'm part of the Fallen First Responder program there. So I help promote how they pay for mortgage-free homes for fallen first responders for their families so they don't have to worry. So just promoting that on social media and getting the word out whenever I can is a big part of my mission at T2T.
What inspired you to be involved with T2T in the first place?
So I'm actually from Massachusetts, and my father is a Massachusetts State Trooper. He has been a huge influence my whole life. And as I grew older, I always knew when I went to play soccer in college, I always wanted to be more than a soccer player. I wanted to have outreach on my community, and a big part of my life was having my dad as a police officer. So he kind of introduced me to Tunnels to Towers. He sent me that they had student athletes, and I started reading into the mission. And once I saw the website and I saw the people involved in it, I knew that was my calling, and I knew I wanted to be involved in every way possible to help make a change with our veterans and our first responders every day.
Man, first of all, fist bump, buddy.
Yeah.
So you did it last year, right?
Did it last year. We're doing it again this year.
And you're going to run it this time?
Well,
you did live shots for us last time.
The magic of TV, I had to slow my pace a little bit. It's a 5K from the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel to the site of the Twin Towers, and we were talking with you guys on the air here last year.
It was interesting.
And so we had to slow the pace a little bit. I don't know if I'll be running or walking this year. It doesn't matter. I'm excited to do either, any, as it's one of the better things that I've ever gotten involved in. That organization works to provide mortgage-free homes to veterans that have been injured. And to the boys in blue, the New York Police Department, and to the firefighters as well. And so it's just one of those things where you're proud to be involved, and you'll do anything, and you won't forget it either. You know, if you ever do that event, it's something that really lives on with you. And I'm really proud of Emma and how wise beyond her years she is.
Sounded just like that.
Yeah, and the fact that she's so young but already getting into volunteering.
She gets it.
Right. And it's great to see that youth, want to get involved in something. And, it was interesting talking with her because she didn't really have the experience you and I did with 9/11.
Yeah, she's younger. She doesn't remember where she
was.
was.
Much younger, yeah. And so I was proud to know that even though maybe it didn't have that memory impact that that it had on us, that she's still involved and
It's amazing.
interested.
So it runs right through the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel.
Yeah.
That's amazing. They shut it down right there for that morning, and it goes right up to the World Trade Center?
Yep, right up to it. And the whole time, families are there. You see pictures of some of the fallen heroes. Everybody's chanting. There's a lot of military folks running by going, USA. Yeah, I know. It's emotional for all the right reasons. And at the very end, you just feel this overwhelming sense of pride. And so September 29th, if you're going to be there, I will see you for sure.
I'm glad you're representing us for Fox Weather because it's the best thing we could do.
Yeah.
I love it.
No doubt.
I love it. Good for you, Nick. Great. I want to keep you here, too, because we've got the other stuff to talk about. You run sports. Did you watch a football game last night? Jets.
I did. Aaron Rodgers looked pretty darn good.
He did. He did not look like a 40-year-old. I mean, he threw 2 touchdown passes. The Jets beat up on the Patriots 24-3. I can't remember the last time they beat up on him in a night game that was televised nationally.
That guy he did like a horizontal tornado
Like
into
that.
the end zone, right?
Yeah, he did. You know what? They initially called him down. Everybody in the right mind was like, he rolled into the end zone without the knee touching.
Yeah,
By the
everyone
way,
was talking about this.
You know what he
interaction,
said?
too.
He said, Aaron Rodgers, I read what he said. He goes, 2 scores.
That's right.
So he was always
Nothing
talking.
to celebrate
right,
about.
nothing, 2 scores. All right, let me show you forecast. We got some football going on tonight. We got college football on Fox, and this one is going to be a smoker. I mean, look at the temperatures right here, Nick.
Man, starting off at 91, still going to be in the upper 80s there at 7 o'clock, 82 at 8. The players will be happy when the clock strikes 8 and 9 o'clock, right?
Yeah, exactly. 2 ranked teams, too. You're talking
Big
about,
game.
look at that, Illinois, 24, and the Huskers are 22.
It's a big money game for us here on Fox.
Yeah, we've got that on Fox right there. So we've got this one. Also, I want to show you this one because this one will be affected by weather on Saturday. Kent State against Penn State. So, all right, listen, Kent State, we appreciate you showing up. Let's just hope that the Storms come out there and kind of foul up the Nittany Lions game plan a little bit. You can hang in with that game, but 24 is, I mean, that's a big team. Here you go, BC. Get some rain showers coming in.
Yeah, there you go. Doesn't look like the Rowies, all that impacted though, still going low with it. Although you never know. We may have to adjust that as we get going. You know, I graduated, I have 2 degrees, one from the University of Akron, so that's Kent State's biggest rival.
Yeah.
So I hope the score there, I hope Penn State gets into the triple digits on those.
All right, I got you. Here's your Ohio State guys, who turns out we both root against.
I know.
How about that?
I'm from Ohio, but I'm anti-Ohio State.
I got
it's pushed on you from such a young age.
I understand
I'm like
that.
a rebel, you know?
I understand that. Some heat coming into one of these games. Look at that, Green Bay against Tennessee. We talk about temperatures usually. Not on the hot side like this, though. 93 in Tennessee.
93 in Tennessee. You've got 91 there in Tampa Bay, which is to be expected. Overall, low rowy. You got to love to see all the green. I'm a football purist, Bob, so I don't like when rain or snow later in the season mucks up the game. I like to see the game as it should play out without weather.
So you're like a dome guy.
Yeah,
so you're not
I
a
think
Giants
they should all
fan.
be in domes, yeah.
So you're not a Giants fan. I'm the only one around here. Hey, we're going to be right back with another look at the tropics.
At Rue La La, feel like $1,000,000 without paying the price. Seize the deals on top names before they're gone. Get in to never miss out. Shop RueLaLa.com today.
Home warranty.
Focus.
Yes, focus on an American Home Shield warranty. It can protect your covered home systems and appliances like this AC with a repair or replacement.
Yes, thank you.
Home.
It's home, not home.
Yeah, it's home. Pretty sure it's home. American Home Shield. Sign up today at ahs.com.
Nothing stops a DR Field and Brush mower. DR gets the job done right.
What's going on, everybody? Thanks for joining us this afternoon. I'm Bob Van Dillen, back in Studio N. It's Friday, September 20th. Joining me now for an update in the tropics, and we just got a brand new one. Jay Manar, meteorologist, you're here with me again to break this out because, as you know, it's Friday. It's a feel-good Friday, right? And now we've got some breaking news in the N studio. What do we call breaking news in the weather department?
Breaking wind.
Breaking wind. So let's hear it, Jane.
50%.
There you go.
I'm not too surprised by this.
No, me
50%
either.
chance. It truly doesn't change much at all from what we're looking at. I mean, it's still medium confidence that we'll maybe see something come together in the next 7 days.
Yeah, and the reason why we're going up to 50%, it was 40% last hour, is just because the models are consistent. That we're going to see that CAG begin to form later on.
I think that's the biggest takeaway for me is that this is I think, a higher confidence that we're going to see the Central American gyre come to fruition as we go into next week. Does it still mean that we're going to see a storm or not? I don't know. You know,
nothing's changed on the visible satellite imagery. I mean, there's still nothing there that is a giant circulation. The CAG hasn't formed yet. And did you see Brian Norcross's last hit? It was good. He was showing the fact that the winds have not gotten to a big circle yet across the entire Central America. Just maybe one just off the shore from Costa Rica.
Okay.
But as for the broad circulation, the CAG, the gyre, that has not formed.
Hasn't quite kicked in yet. I think this is something that we watch over the weekend. I think if you're watching this, prepare for not a lot of change over the next couple of days. And that's just how this is going to ultimately play out. You know, I think we still have through this weekend, models still don't even know what to grasp onto, which is why I think it's really dangerous to be careful what you're seeing online.
Yeah, if you pin yourself on one model and it's a deterministic model, it's not an ensemble of different ones. You're gonna scare the heck out of you.
For any weather enthusiasts who are watching, don't look at the deterministic with really any kind of confidence right now. You should be looking at the ensembles and trying to figure out, okay, what's these areas trying to tell us?
Right. What's a general flow of where everything is going to end up? Because if you look at the deterministic, especially the GFS one, it's going to scare the hell out of you.
It's been incredibly robust.
And it's been all over the place too. It just hasn't been in one spot. It's been on the west side of the Gulf of Mexico. It's been across the middle part of Florida. Yeah, you can't look at it, especially now since nothing is even formed yet. So here we go. Here's what we do know though, Jane. We've got that massive dip in a jet stream, which is typical for this time of year. Storm systems get a little bit stronger, drag the jet stream down.
Right.
But that will keep